I'm here with Jasmine Cephas Jones visiting at home, and it's so good to just check in with you. I'm curious, what was your reaction? I know we were talking earlier about, and I've thought of you guys so much because I assume that the way this was intended to go, it would have been October 2021. There would have been a lot of red carpets and premieres. There probably would have been, before we got to that, a nice little screening room for you guys to get together, ham fam style, and just celebrate it and watch it all in the same room together for the first time. That would have been, that's what I picture. I picture all of you together experiencing that for the first time. You didn't get to do that, but what was your reaction the first time you actually saw how it looked on film?
I was floored. I think like all the memories and that experience just kind of like flowed back into my body. And I remember one of the first things that I said to Anthony was like, these people are so good at what they do. Like, they are so talented. And just kind of being in awe of this cast. And like how, you know, we put this show together, you know, and just looking at everybody individually and seeing them shine. I don't know, it's really hard to explain. It's just really hard to explain. It's like reliving something, but also being such a fan of everybody that was involved, you know, and just kind of being in awe of them, you know, which hits you in a different way because you know all of them, you know,
Yeah.
You know all of them. You're very close with all of them. And to see kind of like what we all did together and how we band together 8 times a week for that long. And, you know, we did this film after we did the Tonys. We were tired.
Yep.
You know, like we were pushing through. We were in a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
You know, and we had this like, you know, keep going. And we did that film right after the Tonys. You know what I mean? Like, so to know that and to see like what everyone brought, you know, even after that whole entire year, that movie was kind of the end of like Leslie, Lynn, I think, and Pippa left, and Ari kind of left in July.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when the original cast, well, some of them, 2 of them, Betsy and Emmy were gone by then. But like really like a lot of people.
When
like,
it started to splinter apart, yeah.
So that, you know, that film was really the end of that crazy year that we had on Broadway.
Yeah.
Like that insane year of not only just doing the show, but doing the Grammys, going to the White House, doing an extra show for, you know, other people, like all the ham for hams,
Yeah.
You know, all the extra rehearsals, you know, just like the whirlwind that was that show. That film was kind of like the last thing, that extra that, you know, we had to do. That was like really big like that.
Right.
So, you know, we were pushing through, and
yeah,
like, to see a cast like that band together and not look tired on screen or look like we're just trying to push through, like,
yeah,
it's just it's amazing, man. And it's just like you know, just your hat off to what people in theater do and what people in theater are just capable of.
Yeah.
And it's just a magical and beautiful thing. And not a lot of people can do that, you know?
Amen.
And so when you're able to capture that and capture, you know, and I think like my reaction was just knowing all of that, while watching it. I was just in awe, really, just in awe of everyone.
Yeah. Well, you gave me chills just describing it, because you're right. It's just every single person at the highest level, you know, including, you know, the designers, including lighting and, and sound, and like there's so many interesting sound design elements in the film, where they let the mix kind of almost ring out in the room, so that it doesn't feel like a recording. It feels like you're listening to what the sound was in the room. I was talking to Oak about this a little bit. Like, one thing that I'm really grateful for is, to me, there's such beauty in the close-ups that are available, because even if you were lucky enough to be seeing it in person, you don't get that up on the face, you know. And what that meant was, not only was it shot so beautifully, but we could really appreciate the level of acting work that everybody was bringing.
Yeah.
You could really see, and I became so grateful that it got recorded at the time that it did, even though, as you're saying, like, I remember the intensity of that time frame. But because you were all so like rooted, it wasn't new. You know, you had been living it, breathing it, sleeping it, you know, you were consumed with it for so long that the level of acting work that you were bringing was so in you, in all of your bodies, that it was remarkable to watch.
I don't even know what number show we did by then, you know.
Yeah.
And like the beauty of it is, like, even when you're at your 50%, you know, it still is an amazing show.
Yeah.
You know? And when something is so embedded in you that long, and you as an actor just learn how to push through.
Yeah.
You know, and do a 3-hour show when you're not feeling 100, you know, I think that's the brilliance of what people do in theater.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the brilliance comes in.
Absolutely.
The brilliance comes in. That's where your training comes in. That's where, like, you know, it's like being in the Olympics without getting time off.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I always compare musical theater to the Olympics, always, because I'm like, it's like athletic like that.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm glad
go ahead.
If that people like understand that.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm glad you're bringing it out, because also there's a lot of young performers and people and aspiring performers and people of, you know, all levels probably listening right now. And I think that it's good, especially for young people who may be really, you know, idolizing the Ham Fam, to hear that it's hard. Like, it's really hard. It's not all, you know, like, just I get to be in a hit show and that's marvelous. There's a lot that's going on. I was tired just sometimes watching. We were in like the third number and I was like, this is exhausting. Like, because it's also, the pace is so relentless and there's so much going on. And when you can really watch that on film in a way where in the theater, you know, it's all just whirring by you and there's only so much you can kind of take in. Somehow on film, you're like even more cognizant of, oh my gosh, now she's over there, and then she's got to come around and do that, and now she's up on the level, and then it's
so much detail. Like, you've got to watch it 4 or 5 times to really like see everything that's happening, because there's always so much happening in every single number. Like, there is so much detail to every single thing. Like, even like on the surround, like what, you know, a lot of us were doing on the surround that was like so detailed.
Right.
So small.
Yeah.
But contributes to the show. Like, that's kind of like the brilliance of it, you know?
Yeah.
But then it's like the reason why we have those videos, you know, and like we're delirious, like having a cast like that, that's what gets you through.
Right.
You know, being able to have a bond with like these people because we're all going through the same thing. It's like we are the ones that help get us through.
Yeah.
And that's also like that's also another beautiful thing. Like if you're lucky enough to work in a show that you love, but you know, it's also really hard, and you're lucky enough to have a cast that kind of like pulls you through when you're not feeling your best. I mean, that's where it's at.
I hear that. So a few minutes ago, we heard the incredibly now iconic Schuyler sisters. We talked about this. We got to visit while you were in Cyrano downtown, and I was asking you about the phenomenon that was the hashtag and Peggy, which was such a hilarious, like, unexpected outcome of Hamilton. Yeah. But let's actually take it back before you were a hashtag. Do you remember in the rehearsal process making Peggy that kind of like scrappy little scrappy little gal? Like, do you remember? I mean, in order for Aunt Peggy to have become a hashtag, that speaks to your character work, because that's what people were responding to. So I'm curious, like, what you could share with us about what you remember about making Peggy into the Aunt Peggy that we know her to be.
Well, you know, it's like when you have something that's written so genius, you don't have to do much. And with Peggy, I feel like I really did not have to do much. My goal was to show the love between these sisters, like in that first act. And also, like, they're sisters. They have arguments. They're not all of them are the same. And, you know, it's written in, you know, those lines that she first has, you know, of kind of like,
meow, meow, meow.
Excited. You know what I mean?
Right.
So how do you make that, you know, kind of pop and make it different, you know, when everybody is like, Angelica, Eliza, and she's just like, and Peggy, like,
that's me.
You know, like she's not here for it. And I you know, I think it's hilarious. The way that like Lynn wrote it was genius.
Yeah.
So, you know, my process really was just, you know, she was the one that wasn't really for it, but she was a bit funny, and then she eventually gets persuaded, you know. But I think with her, it was just honestly just having a good time.
Yeah.
You know, it was just showing the love between all of those sisters and having a good time, and just kind of making her spunky, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Really making her spunky and fun, you know?
It's such a great part of the show. It's like we've been having all of this, you know, all of this development with what's, you know, kind of unfolding with Alexander Hamilton and the plot. And then all of a sudden we just go into this, like, moment that tells us so much about these women and about their sisterhood and about who they are. It's amazing how much can be accomplished in one number, you know. And it just like brightens up the whole stage. Suddenly we have women, we have colorful costumes, we have flirtation going on all over the place. There's so much movement because of the turntable work, and it's every single element from Andy Blankenbuehler's incredibly genius choreography that, you know, that millions of girls, you know, are reenacting in their living rooms right now. You know, it's just it's a really magical lift that happens at that moment in the show.
Yeah, and it's great because, like, you know, the women come out and we're not saying like someday my prince will come. We're saying like you have a voice and you have to listen to what we have to say. And
yeah.
In the sequel work, like, it's women empowerment. Like, as soon as we come out, which it's just genius, man. It's genius. Like,
that's so great.
That man's mind.
I'm telling you, and I want to ask you something else about that in a minute. But before we do, when by the time you came to the project, was Peggy and Mariah always sort of dual role track, if you will? It was always that way.
Yeah. Sierra Renee, she was the one that did the workshop. So they workshopped it for like, I think 4 weeks, a couple of months before. And then they were doing recasting for that role. And like, I came in and I did like 3 auditions, and I only auditioned with Mariah Reynolds' song. And then I think it was either my 3rd audition where I was in the room with Alex Lacamoire and Tommy. I did it in front of everybody. And then they asked me to stay. And they taught me, they were like, there's another character that you play. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. They were like, it's Peggy Schuyler. And Alex Lacamoire wrote the lyrics down on a napkin and taught me the Peggy role in that room in my 3rd audition, and from a napkin.
Wow.
So, they just wanted to see, like, they were like, you can, really sing this, Can't Say No to This, but can you also be a very little girl and change your voice?
Yeah. Wait, do you still have the napkin?
No, and everybody keeps asking me that. Dang, I think I was just so nervous. I was just like, they're like, thanks. And I was just like, okay, right. You don't know what that it's going to be.
Of course not. No, of course.
Century, you know what I mean? Like,
knowing me, I would have like wiped my brow with it or something.
Yeah, I was just so like, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah. Wow. What a cool thing. Well, I wanted to then ask you, because one of the things, I mean, what a blessing as an artist to get to play those 2 opposing kinds of characters in the same show. I mean, I just guess that must be the most fun. But I have to say, girl, as I watched the film, I was like, I mean, again, speaking of the close-ups, we're right up on all that kissing action. And I know you're a genius actor, but was there even like anything as you're watching it where you're like, I am really like macking with Lin-Manuel Miranda up in here?
It's like, it's so crazy when people talk about like intimate scenes, because it's just like, you've done it so many times. Also, 1,300 people are staring at you, while you're doing it. So it's not really an intimate moment at all.
Right.
You're just kind of like, okay, and here we go. Second show on a Wednesday. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Here we go. I hope I brushed my teeth before this.
Yeah. Honestly, to be honest, the main thing for me in that scene was like, let me just get that note out. Is it going to come out today? Great. Like, as soon as I watched it, I was like, okay, is this note going to sound good? Like, when I watched it, I was, that was the last thing that I was thinking about of me kissing Lynn. Is this note going to come out, and is it going to sound good? Like, that is literally all that I think about when I hear that song.
Yeah. Like, if there's something, I don't know, there's, once again, there's something really there's some special magic in there. It was like you and that like sort of crimson-y Paul Tazewell dress, and your hair down and the sultriness of the groove of that song.
Even the way that the song is written immediately, like with that bass line, and it's like a great R&B ballad.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And immediately, again, it's like you really don't have to do much.
Yeah.
If something is written so well, it's all there for you. And as soon as, you put on like the red dress, you take your hair down, you're putting on like the red lipstick, and I'm slow walking on a turntable. Like, it's all set up.
Yeah.
I just have to get these notes out again. Like, I just have to get these notes out and, just be believable. And, my goal was just to, a lot of people didn't know that it was me doing those two roles. And that is like, is such a huge compliment, because that's what I wanted. I wanted those two characters to be so different in the way that they move and present themselves, even down to the way that they talk and they sing, and with Mariah Reynolds, like, I had to do something different. I had to carry myself differently on that stage.
Yeah.
And everything was slower, and, her look backs, and, it's such a sexy song without doing anything really.
Yeah.
Like, and it's literally about sex. Like, that's what that song is. And not once do I take off my clothes, and I think sometimes those are the scenes that hit the most.
Yeah.
It's all about creating that tension. Is she gonna kiss him? Is she not gonna kiss him? Oh my God, she kissed him. It's like, then all of a sudden I'm belting this big note. It's like the tension and the feeling without showing anything.
Yeah.
And that's the brilliance of it. It's the way the song is written.
That's so many amazing points just got made. And for all of us Hamill fans, we know exactly what she means when she says that note. Is that note going to come out? And we're going to hear how it came out on the record, at least. And then we're going to find out what Jasmine's up to next.